Welcome to Becoming a Ripple of Faith. In this series, we're going to be taking a look at mindfulness, meditation or contemplation, and manifesting. This goes along with the previous series that talks about fear, because meditation or silent prayer is one of the best ways to be able to release our fears. Meditation means sitting in silence with God. It means surrendering to God. It is a different way of praying for some of us. And the good news is that we have a very strong role model in Jesus and how this is done and what this can mean for us. We recently had this lesson from Luke that says that Jesus took with him Peter and John and James and went up on the mountain to pray. While he was praying, the appearance of his face changed, and his clothes became dazzling white. Suddenly they saw two men, Moses and Elijah, talking to him. They appeared in glory and were speaking of his departure, which he was about to accomplish at Jerusalem. What is interesting about this is that for Jesus to be able to get this message and see this vision from God, he had to be in contemplative prayer. He had to be in silence. What is even more interesting is that the disciples also were in this state to be able to see this. Jesus could be called a mystic. By definition, from a dictionary, a person who seeks contemplation, which is silent prayer, and self-surrender, which is surrendering to God, to obtain unity with the divine. So it is a person that is developing a close relationship with God. Now, according to Richard Rohr, he says, don't let the word mystic scare you. It simply means one who is moved from mere belief systems or belonging systems to actual inner experience. All spiritual traditions at their mature levels agree that such a movement is possible, desirable, and even available to everyone. To put it in Augustana terms, remember when we talked about where faith meets life? This is what we're talking about. Jesus knew how to make his faith, his relationship with God, impact his daily life. And we saw from the Bible that he also still talked about and was involved in the systems of his religion. So say, for example, that Jesus was here today. I am sure that Jesus would attend Christmas and Easter celebrations and services. I am sure he would be a regular Sunday morning worship attender. If he belonged to Augustana, he probably would be part of the choir. He'd be involved in adult forum and other adult education. He'd go to Wednesday evening Bible studies, and he would be involved in loaves and fishes and all of the caring ministries. But Jesus knew that to be strong in your faith, he needed to move past that to a different level and develop a personal relationship with God. And one of the ways to do that is through silent prayer or meditation. I love this. I just found this actually the other day. The Holy Spirit's voice is as loud as your willingness to listen. We struggle with listening in our culture. Our minds are moving fast. We're always thinking about the next thing to do or what has to be done. And listening is probably one of the greatest gifts that God has given us. Today, hopefully, I'll be able to give you some tools that will help you listen better and develop a closer relationship with God. Before I go into more of the benefits of meditation, I really struggle with teaching something that I have not practiced myself. So as some of you may know, I started a true meditation practice about a year ago. And I will explain more exactly what I do here later on in this video. But I think that it's important to know that some of what I am going to be talking about, I have experienced personally. The interesting thing about when they talk about the benefits of meditation is that these are not things that people just kind of came up with and reported. They now can go ahead and test our brains in such a way that they can see how our brains change in the different areas. So what they can do is they can connect the electrical and energetic systems to see what's firing in our brains when people either are meditating, or the difference in the brains of people that have used meditation as a habit for a long period of time. And these energetic systems turn things into chemicals that we know helps different parts of our physical, spiritual, and emotional brains. So everything that I'm going to be talking about has been scientifically tested. So, of course, the first is a sense of peace, relaxation, and calmness. I definitely can say that, that has been true for me in my practice. But what is interesting about that is that it's not only just true when you are practicing your meditation, but it is also true in your life and beyond. I would have to say that I am more calm in the past year since I've been doing this. Your happiness, optimism, appreciation, and mood improves. There is more resilience, and you're more readily to be adaptive with your behavior. There is a certainty that all things will work out for the good. So there is a better sense of direction. There is kind of less of the going to the doom and gloom, and there is this sense that because you've surrendered and trusted God, that things will work out. There is a better centering in the present moment, and you're more focused. There also is more intellectual intelligence, and complex thinking is increased. And part of this is because with meditation, stress is reduced, and so that helps some of all of our complex thinking. Your memory is better, you're more creative, and you are more not only willing, but more able to learn. And there is a higher self-awareness. Now, as you look at some of all of these things, and this is just the first slide, it's easy to see why doing a meditation practice, especially with what we're going through with isolation and COVID, is a very positive thing to do, which is one of the reasons why I started it a year ago. Your motivation and your willpower will also be increased. Now, we talked a little bit last time about the left and right hemispheres, but meditation helps us with the communication between both of our brains and how they're connected. And by doing that, we use greater functioning with our brains. We use our right brain, which is, of course, more where we deal with some of our feelings, emotions, and connecting with God. It's experiential. And our left brain is more our ego and our control center. So the communication between the two is better with meditation. There's huge benefits for our emotions. So people will have better emotional control, have better emotional intelligence, balance, and also better impulse control. There's less kind of knee-jerk behaviors, which, as you can see in our society, if more people meditated, it might be a very different world for us. There also is more empathy and compassion and kindness, so people's relationships are better. And there is a sense that you need to contribute to others. You're more concerned about others. They found this in meditators, and they found it the areas that were stimulated in the brain. You have greater immunity, longevity, and you also will sleep better. So what is it then that meditation decreases? It decreases loneliness, anxiety, depression, and hyperactivity. It decreases fear, stress, anger, and it also decreases addictive behaviors. It decreases chronic pain. Now, I just want to say on this, it's not that chronic pain is just all in your head. Those of us that deal with chronic pain know that there are some very physical issues many times. But meditation does decrease that pain because it changes the pain sensors. And then, of course, it decreases that lovely hormone cortisol, which we all love, that it's the stress hormone that causes many problems in our body, even weight gain. And then meditation decreases fatigue, inflammation, and also decreases aging. So, meditation can make you healthier physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And it's free, and it's easy, and it doesn't take long. It is about an internal change that extends to your external life. But the main reason to meditate is that it strengthens your relationship with God. It strengthens your relationship with being able to hear the Holy Spirit. Some people would call this intuition. But meditation makes that listening to God and trying to find and follow God's will, it helps make that easier. Many times in meditation, there is that sense of unity with all of God's creation. There is a connectedness that is there. So, again, Richard Rohr, some form of contemplative, quiet, silence practice is the only way to rewire people's minds and hearts. It is the only form of prayer that dips into the unconscious and changes people at deep levels. Only some form of prayer of quiet changes people for good and for others in any long-term way. This is what being a ripple of faith means. And again, can you imagine what our society might be like if people did slow down and take a minute to 15 minutes a day to sit in silence and connect with the Lord? So the technique that I used was called the Z technique. Now there are many different techniques out there. I just found this one to kind of be able to work for me. It was easy. It's dispelled a lot of the myths that I had about meditation. The Z technique was done by Emily Fletcher. She wrote the book Stress Less, Accomplish More. She has an online business training called Ziva Meditation. And she is really into don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Because many times we think that in meditation we have to do it right. We have to, and if it doesn't work and doesn't feel like it's working, we omit it and quit it. And that's part of our perfectionism. So we don't want to deal with that. So here are some of the basics of what she does in her Z technique. And then I will tell you how I've adapted them for my life. What she suggests or requires is that you do 2 15-minute meditations daily, preferably first thing in the morning. There's a lot of different people that say that you should meditate first thing in the morning, and then she also says late afternoon. Well, for me, I'm one of those people that, are up between 4:35 and I'm raring to get my day going and get stuff done. Meditating and doing a quiet meditation is not something that I can do in the morning. I've adapted to do some other mindfulness meditation first thing in the morning, but what I do is one 15-minute meditation every day. I like to do it around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but if that doesn't work, I move that around to fit my schedule. This is very important. And very simple. When you meditate, sit with your back supported so that you're comfortable, but keep your head free. if you put your head back, you're going to fall asleep. I can guarantee it. And that is one of the things when you finally start to relax, that sometimes you may actually feel like you're falling asleep, which with many people will say that's okay, that's what your body needed at that time. But if you sit with your head free, there's less chance of that happening. She also likes to make sure that you have the idea that meditation is a portable device, that it doesn't have to be done in one certain spot, you don't have to sit a certain way, you don't have to do any of those things, and that if you use your internal time clock instead of using a timer or something like that, and she says you can check the time at any time during your meditation. She said then you can go ahead and use that meditation anywhere. Now, for me, I found that it was helpful to set a timer, and I set a timer using an app on my phone. So there is a simple melody that is played, and I can hear that melody in my head now, so I can actually go someplace else. I've done a meditation just sitting in my car when I'm waiting for somebody or something, and so you can go ahead and do that as well. Her big thing, which I think is great, is that noise isn't a distraction. Noise is just part of your meditation for that day. So whether there's a honking horn or somebody drops a pan or somebody else's phone goes off, instead of getting angry and upset that your meditation was ruined, you just accept that and get back onto focusing with being silent. The other thing that I really liked about this, because you know what happens when you start to read some things with meditation, it almost sounds like there's a meditation hierarchy, and there is not. She says that a deep meditation is no better for you than a shallow meditation. So a deep meditation, that's a meditation where you feel like you almost get into that state between sleep and awake. You know, there's a name for that state. And when you actually get into that state, that's when you might see things like Jesus did with visions. Now, I have not seen visions. You may never see visions, but you might. But that deep meditation can be a state that, you know, kind of feels like you are asleep and awake. But she says that deep meditation means the body is getting a very deep rest. But a shallow meditation means that the body is releasing stresses in the forms of thoughts. So as you practice this, you may find that as soon as you sit and you be quiet, all these other stupid thoughts come in, like your grocery list, or, oh, did I remember to email somebody else back? And we'll talk about how to deal with that. But she says that not to get upset about that your body is actually releasing some of those stresses in the form of those thoughts. The problem is that this is not a left brain experience. This is a right brain experience. And the harder that you try to control your thoughts or not having them, or the harder you try to control to get some message from God, the less effective it is going to be. So she talks about the 3 M's. So her Ziva meditation deals with 1, mindfulness, and we'll be talking about that more today. Mindfulness is a little bit more like what many people think meditation is. And mindfulness helps you deal with stress in the present moment. Then there is meditation or silent prayer or contemplation, and that gets rid of stress from the past. That's dealing with stuff that's in your unconscious that you don't even know, and you may never even acknowledge or feel what is going on there. And then the third that she uses is manifesting, and that helps you create your dreams for the future. We will not be talking about manifesting today. We will talk about that in the next Ripples edition. But for right now, even think of manifesting as goal setting with God is probably the easiest way to kind of describe that. So, mindfulness. The mindfulness portion of her meditation is usually only 1 to 2 minutes. And its purpose is to bring awareness into the present moment so that you're not thinking about the past, you're not thinking about the future. It is more of a left brain waking state practice, and it gives you something to do on your way into surrendering, on your way into being silent. Most people cannot just sit down and decide to be silent. I definitely am not one of those people. And because of that, I also sometimes use what I have termed a pre-mindfulness practice. And that practice may be something more like doing yoga or some stretching or qigong. You could do nature videos or listening to music, playing music. Many people will read a passage in the Bible that relaxes them, or use a devotional or a prayer. This again is more left brain, but it is helping prepare you to get into your silent meditation. So, some of the things that she talks about for mindfulness practices that many people use. A lot of practitioners are using EFT tapping. I've talked about that. You don't have to use any words with EFT. You can just hit on the tapping points and they will help relax and release. Again, this has been used a lot with PSTD and anxiety, and they are now using it a lot with athletes, even young athletes, to get rid of some of the stress before competing. Breathing is almost always used, and a lot of people are doing, we've done breath prayers at Augustana, and so for part of your mindfulness practice, you could use a breath prayer. One of the ones that I have been using that I had read about uses God's name Yahweh. And so you breathe in for 5 or 6 with the Yah, and you breathe out 5 or 6 with the Way. And one of the things that helps is if you breathe in, thinking you're breathing that breath into your heart, and you breathe that then out of your heart. And that can be an extremely relaxing prayer. They've done some research that has found that if you can get your heart rhythm and your breathing connected, you enter into a deeper relaxive state quite fast, and they call that coherence. Other people will use body scans in that you can, visualize your feet, your hands move up your body. Sometimes they will have you tighten or tense those things and relax them. Sometimes body scans are used with what I just call connecting with God's light energy, so that you imagine the white, healing, beautiful light of God coming in through your feet or through your head and going through your body and then radiating out of your body. Sometimes if I've got pain in a certain area, like one of my knees is bugging me, I will go ahead and visualize that white healing light from God coming into my knee. Visualizations are also something that many people use. Sometimes you will use a visualization to get you into a certain place where you can relax. For some, this is in water or in the ocean. For others, it can be, a place sitting by a stream or on a mountaintop. And that those places can change for you. One of the things that's on my bucket list is I've always wanted to sit in a full field of lavender. And so one of my visualization places is my rocking chair in the middle of this lavender field with the sun shining down on me. So those things can also help you in a mindfulness meditation to go ahead and relax enough before you try to be silent. Audio guided meditations, or even, this would be similar to yoga. It's been really interesting hearing people that have participated in Augustana's yoga classes. Many people have said they went because they were doing it as part of a physical health thing. And what they realized, it was the meditation, the calming, that happen there. And that would be like a guided meditation that people would use in a yoga practice. Other people will use guided meditations on their phone. But what you need to remember that in this technique, it is really there to help you get into a state of silence. So don't choose something that's going to be 20 minutes long and then you want to sit for silence afterwards, and you really don't want to spend an hour or 45 minutes doing this. So finally, that meditation portion then is the core of this Ziva technique, and it's 14 or 15 minutes long. And basically what this type of contemplation or silent prayer is surrendering. It's the act of releasing yourself to something bigger, wiser, and more powerful, which is God. Now, we talk a lot about surrendering to God and following God's will and listening to God's voice. What we oftentimes don't talk about is how in the heck do you do that? And this is one of the ways that I've found that has worked for me to be able to do that. And it gives a practical way for me to be able to surrender to God. And again, you have to remember that your thoughts are not the enemy. They are just an indicator that stress is leaving your body. She talks about having a mantra, and I don't particularly like that term because for me a mantra is something that is, a number of sentences or several sentences and you say it over and over and over again, and that's not what she's talking about. She's talking this mantra as being one word, and it's used to kind of de-excite your nervous system. It's a right brain approach. So you would use this one word to help you focus once you're in your silent prayer and you start thinking about your grocery list. All right, and so you could use any word that works for you, but it shouldn't have any kind of a meaning that makes it seem like a chant or makes it seem like you're trying to get information. So I didn't use the word God or Jesus because for me that would make me think about, okay, so God, what are you trying to tell me? Or Jesus, what are you teaching me? I use the word Abba. But you could use the word one, peace, or whatever. And it is used as a mind anchor. It's not used as a chant. So what you don't want to do is ruminate on the word in an effort to uncover some deeper significance or profound insight. So this is how I use that mantra. I go ahead and I do my mindfulness stuff. I sit down, I visualize myself in a place that feels safe and warm and comfortable, and then I just relax and be silent. When thoughts come up, I will go ahead and say my word, Abba. If I am sitting in my field of lavender, I will go ahead and look at the sun and feel those sun rays relaxing me. So, and you can use that mind anchor as many times as you want or as you need to. So if you are going to, at this stage, try this Ziva technique, what you do is you go ahead and you do your few minutes of some kind of a mindfulness meditation, and you can choose whatever you want that you would think would work for you. And then you set the intention to sit in silence. You're sitting, with your back supported and your head free, and you have your word, and anytime you get caught up in thoughts or you're trying to solve some other problem, you go to that word and you get back to being silent. And then after you have done your amount of time, and you may want to try it for a shorter period of time, what I would like you to do is that the next portion that she does is as you kind of come out of this relaxed state, you need to kind of slowly open your eyes. I always wiggle my feet, rotate my ankles, my hands, and then go ahead and come up with 3 things that you're grateful for. And thank God for 3 things before you come out of the meditation. When we finish the last portion of what she is talking about, we will do a manifestation, a manifesting piece to end the meditation. So, if you are interested, we are having a Zoom discussion about this video on Tuesday, March 2nd from 7 to 8 p.m. So email me if you would like to be involved in that conversation, and I will send you the Zoom invitation. So thank you so much for being here with me today, and I hope you enjoy your week.